Petty reasons to dislike a character. Alright, let's get into it. No, he's anti-this, or he was terrible to so-and-so stuff. I'm talking the real nitpicky, downright petty reasons for disliking a character. You know, the kind of stuff you never admit to anyone but secretly think about. I'll kick things off. I really dislike Owen Hunt, and I'm not even going to get into the whole "he's a bad boyfriend" debate. No, I'm talking about the episode where Christina is hungover, and Owen so completely fails at holding her hair while she's puking. Like half of her hair is hanging inside the toilet bowl. How do you mess that up? You had one job, Owen, one job. Also, don't even get me started on the Mercy West people. I hated them at first, and not because of their personalities. Nope, it was the orange scrubs, who thought that was a good idea. They looked like traffic cones on a bad day. The second they switched to Seattle gray scrubs, I could almost tolerate them. Then there's George. Oh, George. He's a good guy, sure, but remember that time he didn't buy tampons when he clearly knew they were needed? Like, how do you do that? It genuinely pissed me off, and I don't even know why. Now Richard Webber. Oh, Richard. The way he says "whoa" sounds, just hearing him say "what" makes my skin crawl. And that line he always drops, "I built this hospital." Yeah, Richard, I saw the flashbacks to the 70s. Newsflash, the hospital was already there. You didn't build anything. Maybe you helped build it with a few rounds of golf, but you didn't construct a damn thing. Okay, I'll admit this one is ridiculously petty, but I'm pretty sure Bailey chews with her mouth open. Like, I have no proof. It's just this hunch based on the way her jaw goes slack whenever she's irritated. It's like a subconscious tell, and I'm just waiting for her to pop a bubble with her gum. And Shane. Oh, Shane. I'm convinced this guy is constantly on the verge of wetting himself. Every time he needs to ask a question, he makes this weird face like he's about to burst. I can't even explain it. It's like his bladder is doing the talking. Plus, that grin? Oh, please. It's not a "I'm charming" smile. It's a "I'm plotting your demise" kind of smile. Chills. And finally, Shane gets on my nerves because he actually stands up for himself. Like, what is that? He doesn't care if people hate him? Meanwhile, I'm over here wondering how to make my coffee sound less like a complaint. Some of us just can't muster that level of self-confidence. Ah, the drama behind the scenes of Grey's Anatomy, always a juicy topic. So here's the lowdown. Isaiah and TR had some great on-screen chemistry, especially as Burke and O'Malley. They really played off each other, which makes it even more depressing when you remember the backstage mess. Isaiah's homophobic comments about TR were one thing, but the real kicker is how that whole situation was handled. It's a real head-scratcher why Shonda Rhimes was so willing to forgive Isaiah for being an outright jerk, but couldn't cut Katherine Heigl any slack. I mean, Shonda brought Isaiah back after his whole "outing your gay co-star with a slur" fiasco, but Heigl's crime? Not wanting to work 18-hour days and calling out the writing. It's like, apparently, publicly insulting a coworker is forgivable, but disagreeing with the show's schedule or writing, that's grounds for exile. And as I dive back into my rewatch, I can't help but cringe at some of the things Burke says to George. There's this uncomfortable layer knowing the behind-the-scenes drama, like in the first episode, Burke calls George a pantsy-ass idiot and tells him to pull his balls out of his pocket. Then there's the whole weird VIP patient subplot, where George is literally flirted with for an entire episode. Super cringy considering TR was trying to keep his sexuality private. But honestly, the real kicker here is how Shonda operates. She's like the queen of petty and arbitrary decisions. Katherine Heigl could have worded things better, sure. But let's be real, her biggest offense was daring to speak her mind, and not in a way that fit the traditional nice, quiet woman mold. She dared to be outspoken, and that was enough to get her branded a drama queen, a problem, or just difficult. Meanwhile, Isaiah could practically start World War Iowa and still get the redemption arc. It's almost like being a man who causes chaos is just a mistake, but a woman who speaks up, that's a whole different story. There's the proof right there, folks. Penelope Blake really didn't deserve all the hate she got. Let's break it down. She repeatedly told that other doctor to get a CT scan, and he didn't listen. But no, she's the one who gets the hate. Please. If I were in her shoes, I would have never taken the job at BITCOIN+Sloan knowing how badly she was going to be treated and belittled. Here's the thing. Penny was the closest person to Derek in his final moments. So yeah, of course, she became the convenient punching bag for everyone's grief. Healthy? Not even close. Realistic? Absolutely. She was stuck in an awful spot. Either leave her career behind, pack up and move to a new hospital, or take the job at BITCOIN+Sloan, where the misery would be ongoing. I know I'm in the minority here, but I honestly liked Penny. She owned her mistakes, cared about people, and had enough backbone to stand up for herself when needed. People like to trash her character, but I don't think that's fair at all. Meredith's treatment of her, yeah, that was definitely grief-driven, but let's not pretend Meredith was the worst one. Amelia? A whole different story, way more unprofessional than Meredith ever was with Penny. But here's the real kicker. Even after all the grief, Meredith still chose Penny to be her protege. And Amelia, after her own healing, realized just how talented and considerate Penny actually was. Penny got way more hate than she deserved. I'll die on that hill. She deserved zero of it. That dinner scene, honestly brutal to watch. I get Meredith's reaction. Her husband died, and she's not supposed to be thinking logically. But here's the thing. There were so many surgeons at that table, and not one of them spoke up. How many mistakes have they made throughout the show? I'm not saying Penny's completely blameless, but come on, she was just an intern. Everyone else should have had her back, especially after Meredith stormed out. And the whole she should have left argument because one of her former patients worked there? Ridiculous. What happened to Derek wasn't her fault. But my issue with Penny is that she never fully acknowledged the trauma she was part of and how it affected others. She kept pushing. She went to Meredith for comfort that night, took a residency at BITCOIN+Sloan, and even walked into Meredith's home. She just kept inserting herself. Trauma doesn't always make sense, and Penny's mere presence was a constant reminder of that for Meredith. Considering Meredith owns the hospital, couldn't she have just taken a step back? Penny could have asked for a new match, but no, she chose to stay right there and take the heat. So yeah, she put herself in a position where hate was inevitable. Still, she didn't deserve it. I'm on my 4th rewatch of this show, and I can't help but think that Brooks, aka Mousy, would have been the perfect match for Amy Shepherd. It's honestly heartbreaking that she died before Amy even became a real character. Such a missed opportunity. I mean, think about it. Mousy would have brought a bit of levity to Amelia's intensity. Sure, she had good chemistry with Stephanie, but they were both way too intense. Mousy was exactly the kind of quirky that Amelia is, and with her neurofocus, they would have been a great pairing. But here's the thing. OP, if you've watched this show 4 times and care enough to post on Reddit about it, you might want to take a step back when people correct you about using a character name that's not only unused, but also has a very specific meaning. Maybe don't use that name if it bugs you so much, or, maybe just stop posting about it. Honestly, you're kind of being a jerk. Also, Derek, is that you? Because only Derek calls her Amy. Did you miss that memo? Anyway, can we all just focus on the potential relationship between Amelia Shepherd and Heather Brooks, instead of pointing out that I used the wrong name just so you can get some internet points? CHIEF of surgery, Miranda Bailey making hospital-wide decisions. LMAO. Okay, I'm deep into my 9th rewatch, and I literally cringed when Chief of Surgery Bailey decided she should make calls for the entire hospital. Like, honey, you're the Chief of Surgery. not the hospital CEO. I get it, it's fiction, but watching her face all serious about paying a Bitcoin ransom to some hacker? Oh, I can't. She's literally about to hand over the ransom because it'll save lives. Like, girl, where's the CEO? Sure, she pulled Avery in for a board vote because of course she still gets to sit on the board after her promotion. But even Jackson was all in for this ridiculous ransom plan. I mean, come on, he's just willing to hand over money after one word from the chief of surgery. The woman doesn't even know all the patients in pediatrics, orthopedics, ICU, ER, OB/GYN. Heck, not all of them are even surgical patients. Why is she making decisions for the whole hospital? Just because she's the chief of surgery doesn't mean she runs the show in every department. I swear I'm done with Grey's. And yet, here I am, rewatching it for the millionth time because it's still so entertaining. But these plotlines just make zero sense. You're chief of surgery, not chief of the entire freaking hospital. Even the past chiefs weren't CEOs. Seriously, how does that even make sense? If you're tuning into Grey's for a realistic hospital experience, you're in for a rough ride. Apparently, in Grey's, the chief of surgery has their hands in everything, from surgery to laundry and even the janitor's schedule. What happened to middle management or department heads? Slashes. And every time one of these chiefs goes, "This is my hospital, I just die inside." No, honey, this is your fellow or. You might get 2 floors, maybe, but the whole hospital isn't just a bunch of operating rooms. Honestly, the most realistic thing about Grey's was the very first episode when Meredith got lost. I've been to a lot of hospitals, and honestly, the worst place to navigate is a big city teaching hospital. Every time I asked a nurse or doctor how to get somewhere, they either didn't know or gave me the wrong directions. It wasn't until I ran into a hospital porter, orderly for you Americans, that I actually got the right directions. That episode was 100% true to life. I actually said to my mom, I feel like I'm in Grey's Anatomy, as I was aimlessly wandering around trying to find the department I needed. We all know the big tear-jerker moments in Grey's Anatomy, the ones that leave you emotionally wrecked. You know, the ones where a character's dying, or some heavy life-altering truth is dropped like it's no big deal. Looking at you, he's not the son you are. But what about the lesser-known lines? The ones that don't get all the attention but still leave you sitting there, trying to hold back tears, questioning your life choices. For me, it's that one scene from the early seasons where they throw a prom for Camille after they find out her cancer's back. She's dancing with Richard, talking about her boyfriend, and just casually says, "He loves me, I've been loved." Like, excuse me, Camille. That one line is an emotional gut punch. Then there's Izzy, showing a surprising amount of maturity when she talks about her daughter. I'm her mother, but I'm not her mom. It's so simple, yet so heartbreakingly real. That hit different. And who could forget that moment when Izzy donates bone marrow to her daughter? She says she might die and she doesn't want to meet me. Oof. I mean, yeah, she made the decision to give her daughter up for adoption, but the sheer isolation in that line? Brutal. Richard's line to Meredith, a beautiful, smart, funny little girl, and no one stood up for you. My soul just shattered. Like, thanks for the punch to the gut, Richard. George's moment when his father dies. I don't know how to exist in a world where my dad doesn't. Talk about a sobering realization. And Christina, always the realist, just drops, yeah, that never really changes. We get it, Christina, life sucks, but we don't need you to keep reminding us. April's moment when she finds out about Samuel. My baby's bones are breaking inside of my belly, the place he's supposed to be safe. Just stop already, Grace. My heart can't take this. And then, when April and Jackson are deciding what to do about Samuel, you're gonna look at him and memorize every little detail of his face, and you will do that as long as he leaves. You will do that until God takes him. Catherine in that moment, totally solid, unwavering support, but also feelings, man. You can't just drop lines like that without consequences. The line from the wedding episode. The day you realize that there's not enough time because you want to live forever. Yeah, that one's a sucker punch too. Thanks for ruining my day, Grace. And I'm not even the biggest Joe fan, but there's this one line from her, and Camilla's acting is just chef's kiss. I'll rise so high that I'll make him a fool for ever having left me, and I'll do it because of how well he loved me. I am changed because of him. He helped me feel worthy of love, and even though it's over, that is mine to keep. Like, wow, Joe, you might have just made me feel something. But perhaps the most unexpected emotional whiplash came from a reference to the Dunblane massacre. I wasn't expecting that from Grace. I was in primary school when it happened, and I spent years not really processing it. The episode aired when my oldest son was the same age I was back then, and my other son was the age of the kids in the class. All that just hit me in one brutal wave. Didn't expect a TV show to make me confront that. Is it just me, or does Grey's Anatomy go way overboard with the whole DNR, do not resuscitate thing? Take season 5, for instance, when Ezzy signs a DNR before brain surgery, saying she doesn't want to end up on a ventilator. That's fair and all, but doesn't it seem like there are a million other forms and steps you can take to specify exactly what you want? Like maybe she doesn't want to be stuck on a ventilator for weeks, but why jump straight to the "do not resuscitate" line? It feels like an overreaction. You could be more specific. It's not like signing a DNR is the only option here. On the flip side, though, I've seen situations where things get dragged out way too much, making the whole process way more complicated than it needs to be. For example, in season 11, I think, there's this elderly lady who wants to be DNA CPR. Do not attempt CPR. But her daughter doesn't agree. Instead of honoring the patient's wishes, they don't sign the form, and when the patient dies, they still do CPR, even though it's obviously going to be ineffective. Super dramatic, right? Maybe this is more of an American thing. I'm a doctor in the UK, and here, if you don't honor a patient's capacity and sign the form when they request DNA CPR, it's considered battery to perform CPR. Of course, there's time for family discussions, but in the end, the patient's wishes are what matter. The family's opinion isn't the deciding factor. If a patient doesn't have capacity, that's a bit trickier, but it's still up to the medical team to make the call. We can't be forced to give treatment, including CPR, that we believe is futile. In cases like that, we'll sign the form ourselves. But hey, I get it. Grey's Anatomy was set in Washington State, so the rules there might differ a bit. Still, it's so exaggerated. Now, when Ezzy becomes incapacitated after specifying a DNR, it's worth noting that the paperwork is meant to guide her wishes, but it's her decision-maker who ultimately makes the call. In this case, that's Alex, her husband. That's why it's so much more important to have a trusted decision-maker who's clear on your wishes, rather than just filling out the paperwork. It's not like your family can just change the decision once you're out of commission. There's definitely a middle ground here, like Mark Sloan, who spelled out exactly how long he'd be okay on a ventilator, and how aggressive he wanted the resuscitation efforts to be. So I get where Ezzy's coming from with her total DNR. She was fighting what she thought was terminal cancer, and I can totally see why she wouldn't want to be revived, just to be stuck in a cycle of chemo, surgeries, and endless suffering. When the season 6 finale of Criminal Minds first aired, the promo campaign was very much focused on the high stakes and suspense surrounding the episode. At the time, the producers and the network made a big deal out of the fact that it would be a shocking, intense finale, especially due to the cliffhanger involving the shooting. They didn't give away the specific details about who would be shot, but the promos definitely hyped up the danger and hinted that something major was going to happen. The commercial teasers leading up to the finale made it clear that viewers would need to brace themselves for a major twist, but the specific nature of the shooting and who would be involved remained a mystery. This kept fans on edge during the final few days before the episode aired. There were a lot of questions in the lead-up, with people speculating wildly about what might go down, especially after the build-up of the intense storylines in the season. You're not alone in feeling that it was peak television. The anticipation leading into the finale, especially during those commercial breaks, was so palpable. It definitely had a way of pulling you in and keeping you glued to the screen. Reed's shooting was such a shocking moment that it's one of those rare TV moments where people who watched it live still remember the exact feeling of watching it unfold. It was a major turning point, and it really elevated the tension in the show.